One of the biggest questions people are asking right now is whether the 2026 will be an altcoin super cycle. And the answer really depends on what you mean by super cycle. If you're expecting a repeat of 2017 or 2021, where everything all moves together, I don't think that's where this environment's heading. What I do think is we're seeing a very different kind of cycle driven by liquidity, regulation, and real use cases. Today, I want to break down what the altcoin super cycle actually means in 2026 and what most people are missing. Sorry, my dog is barking upstairs, not really sure why he's carrying on. What people mean, okay, that completely derailed me, guys. I'm sorry. Good morning, the one. For those of you watching the replay, I'm so sorry about that. That just completely derailed me. Uh, but we're talking about the altcoin super cycle. And then once we get through the altcoin super cycle, I'm going to hop into the chart and then the ETFs and the news and then the live chat Q&A just like we always do. I see people coming in the stream already. Again, I appreciate you all and apologize. Things got messed up on me and derailed me there at the very beginning. But when people are talking about the altcoin super cycle, we're talking traditionally, right, as far as broad altcoin rallies, right? Capital rotating from Bitcoin into Ethereum and then to the broader altcoin market. And most of that stuff is based purely on narrative, hype, pump and dump schemes. That's where a lot of the meme coin stuff got, roped in. It's really retail dominated. It's all narrative based. It has nothing to do with actual utility, adoption, infrastructure, and what's happening in the overall market other than just the cycle of Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins. So, do I think that's what's going to happen this year? No, I think we're moving into a completely different model now where regulation actually matters in this cycle. And I think that is what is going to drive this leg of the cycle because we have institutional money now. Regulation matters now. Institutions don't really care what narrative or what hype is going on with what token. They're looking at utility, they're looking at use case, they're looking at background, they're looking at what's going to make them money, right? So when you get in, as far as institutions, liquidity is a lot more selective. It's not just a broad pump into the meme coin market like we saw in 2021 or 2017, right? ETFs and custody are going to completely change how liquidity and capital behaves in this market. It's not going to be, something like we saw in 2021 or 2017, where all the liquidity that was entering into the market was completely narrative and retail based. Okay. And you also have to think too, what was the market cap in 2017? What was the market cap in 2021? It was vastly lower than what it is now. Well, in 2021, after the pump, right, the market cap got higher, but the overall market cap right now, the floor, if you will, is already higher than what it was then. That's going to change the narrative as well. So, are we in a super cycle? Again, it depends on what you think a super cycle is. Okay. So, to me, how this is going to play out. And again, engage in the chat. I want to know what you guys think. What do you think 2026 is going to look like? Do you think we're entering in a super cycle? Let me know in the comments. Okay. But in 2026, right, as far as, an altcoin super cycle, I do think we're going to have select tokens, right? Select crypto projects pump this year. There's going to be fewer winners. It's not going to be a broad market pump. It's going to be more infrastructure and utility over speculation and narrative, right? It's going to have to do with real world integration, real world adoption, right? Things that have clear compliance paths, things like Chainlink, things like Ondo, things like XRP, things like Avalanche, things involved in tokenization, right? Real world use cases, okay? I do think we're going to see a lot of institutional money funnel into these projects, okay? That's not an altcoin super cycle, but it is a new sort of cycle we're going to see. We can call it the utility cycle, the adoption cycle, the utility phase, whatever you want to call it. But I think this is going to be the year where we start seeing projects separate themselves, right? This is where we're going to see the cream rise to the top, if you will. So again, let me know in chat what you guys think. So where does XRP fit into all of this, right? So what does XRP represent? It's regulated liquidity, right? It's settlement and infrastructure. It's enterprise and institutional alignment. So when we talk about institutional money and institutional things coming in, Ripple has had a seat at this table waiting to get started. January is going to bring clarity. January is going to bring a potential DAT reclassification, right? January, we have more money coming in. We're supposed to start seeing additional ETFs go live this month and this month. End of Q1, we're supposed to start seeing Vanguard investments coming into the ETFs that we saw announced back in December, right? So the liquidity, the money is going to be piling into these assets much more so than even in 2025 as we continue to get more clarity and more adoptions. So 2026 will be a new cycle. It's not going to be a quote unquote super cycle. We're going to separate the winners from the losers, right? So we're not going to expect everything to pump, but we're going to understand that what we have positioned over the last year as far as what projects we believe in based on what they're actually doing, based on adoption, based on real world utility, based on everything that's happening in the market. Those are the things that are going to have appreciation this year. Again, my opinion, not financial advice, but 2026 isn't going to reward speculation. It's going to reward who has positioned over the last 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 years, even beyond in this crypto space. We're going to see who the winners are this year. Again, my opinion, not financial advice. So what may look like a super cycle to some, I guess I'm calling an appreciation of everything we've been building over the last few years. So without further ado, let's hop into the chart and the normal show, just like we normally do. And I'll recap the super cycle part. It's we've kind of got a slower start. Things usually typically ramp up as I get into the regular part of the show. Thank you, William. I appreciate you being here. Kevin, I see you guys all hopping in the chat, and we'll continue. So today we're down to 199.8. We did bust over $2. If you were in the stream yesterday, let me pull that up for you so you can see it. If you were in the stream yesterday, we were talking about 195. We wanted to bust through 195 with volume and then hold that. So we busted through 195 with volume, got all the way up to 205. Now we're down to 199. If we hold 195, then it gives us an opportunity, another leg up to push to 220. Okay, so if this does continue to fall, which it looks like it's going to, we're cooling off the RSI. But this is when we talk about a bullish divergence, right? You hear these terms, right? So bullish divergence, we talk about RSI, your relative strength index. That's what this is down here. So we're at 52 right now, so it's cooling. So when we talk about bullish divergence, we look at where the price is now, 199.8 versus what RSI is now, 54.7. So let's go back and see where it was at 199.8. So right here is at 199.8 and RSI was at roughly 58. So RSI is cooling while price is staying flat. We go over here, it was way up here, right? We were an overbought. So in the course of a day, we have cooled off RSI, but have not lost price. This is a bullish divergence. This means we're giving momentum time to breathe while we maintain price. Price is not following this momentum. The momentum was buying pressure. So that is a good sign for our theory. So let's see if this cools off to 195, brings RSI all the way down here. That gives us room for another push. That's how these charts work. So overall, the entire market for the day is kind of chopping. There's a couple winners today. Zcash is recovering. Remember, they took a dump yesterday. They lost about 6 or 7%. Sui is recovering nicely, 5%. They didn't have did they have as big of a pump? Let's see what their week is. Yeah, Sui's up 16%. Pepe is having a great week. So for the week, everyone is doing well with the exception of Zcash and Hyperliquid and a couple others, XMR. But everything is doing well this week, considering the New Year pump. Let's see what actually happened on Friday with ETFs. Now, keep in mind, Friday, we still had inflows. We had over 20 million of inflows in the ETFs. But keep in mind that on Friday, everyone just came back from the holiday. Not a lot of people were working. It was just really, really slow. So not much was happening on Friday, and we still had 20 million of ETF inflows. So let's see what's actually held in trust right now. Franklin Templeton was at 118. Let's go ahead and refresh, see if they added anything. Franklin Templeton is now at 123. So Franklin Templeton added 5 million yesterday. Grayscale was at 122, and they are now at, let's see what they got. 122, so no change for Grayscale. Canary Capital was at 175. Still 175, so no change for Canary Capital. Bitwise was at 132, and no change for Bitwise. And let's see if 21 shares had any change, 135 to 136. So another million, almost 2 million. They're almost up to 137 there. So another 7 million went into the ETFs yesterday on Friday. Let's take a look here. Do I have anything else for you? Again, if you want to follow me on X, it's Longview Crypto. I have been active on there. I retweet things that I see. Let's see. XRP ETFs continue to take XRP off the market. 72 days of inflows is the record to beat with BlackRock's IBIT before a single outflow day. So we still are competing with that, but we have not yet had 1 day of outflows with XRP ETFs. We had 1 day of zero inflows, but there still have not been any outflows for XRP ETFs. We covered the rich list yesterday. Again, if you want to be in the top 10% of XRP holders, you need to hold 2,500 XRP. If you want to be in the top 5%, you need to hold 10,000 XRP. But again, remember, there's 7.5 million wallets. These are not all people. A lot of these are companies. A lot of companies hold multiple wallets. Most people over, let's see, 5 to 6 million? So 6 million of the 7,500,000 wallets are 0 to 500 XRP. Okay. So just remember, if you are in this space at all, learning, starting to stack, again, none of this is financial advice, do your own research. But if you are here at all, learning, starting to stack, you are already ahead of 99% of the people out there, truthfully. So you are already ramping up. So I'm going to hop into the chat real quick, and then I'll do a recap. Keep the chat going. I love the live Q&A portion. It's a slower day. It's a Saturday. There's not a lot of news, but I do want to cover the super cycle and discuss it with you all, because I do believe we are going to have an appreciation and a pump this year. And I want to differentiate what I believe is happening now versus what the traditional super cycles were. So after I get through the chat, we will recap that for everyone. Okay. So the one is in the house. Good morning, the one. William and Bonnie made it today. Good afternoon. It is afternoon now. It's 12:15. Kevin said good afternoon from Lakeland, Florida. All right. I hope the weather is there nice. It's in the 30s here. It's cold. William and Bonnie, let me know how many people are in the stream. Appreciate it. It's coming 589 says greetings from London. Welcome. Any update on Ripple's banking license? No updates yet. They're still jumping through the hoops. Again, from the time they received the conditional banking charter, the typical timeline is 6 to 12 months for them to have it fully up and running. So we'll probably not going to hear anything on that for at least a few months, maybe Q2. To be honest with you, it is possible for it to happen sooner if they have, all the ducks in a row. I don't know why they would potentially rush that part of it, but it could happen sooner. But the typical timeline is 6 to 12 months, and there's no new news on that right now anyway. Yeshua said, hello, everyone from Venezuela. Wonderful. And they asked, is Jake's domino theory still in effect, or is that a sales pitch? He came out and said that all timelines, are meant to, all timelines are adjusted when you create theses and things like that. And he's not wrong. So he's sticking to his theory. He's just adjusting the timeline. You guys, again, you can take that for what you will. For me, a lot of what was said with certainty based on private conversations and that he knows and things like that. So you have to take his word for it, and that's up to you. I am not following that anymore. I'm doing my own research, forming my own opinions. I have to address it because I get a lot of questions about it, and but I'm not trusting it. I love what Jake did for the community. I love that he grew the XRP army. I don't love how someone said, I think you misread Yeshua's question. Okay. Hello, everyone. Since the Venezuela news. Okay, I did misread it. Since the Venezuela news, is John Lewis theory still in effect, or is that a sales pitch? I got you. I believe it's a sales pitch. Let me re-answer this question. Thank you for that. It's coming. I went off on a tangent there. But I think it's just a sales pitch at this point. Because he's walked back his theory now, and a lot of it was based on things he was saying that he knew or conversations he had, and regardless if it's real or not, I don't trust it anymore, so I'm not following it anymore. I'm going to come up with my own thoughts and opinions based on my own research, and go from there. So in my opinion, it's a sales pitch, and I would love to be wrong, but to me, that's all it is at this point. I don't want to pee in anyone's Cheerios, but yeah, I'm not a buyer. I'm not a buyer of that for you guys. So that's my opinion. That's where I'm at with it. Based on all the research I've done and where we've gotten to from this point, and watching all the drama unfold in the XRP YouTube space, I think it's better for me to do my own research, and it's better for everyone to do their own research. Raul said good afternoon, and it's coming 589 said corrected me on that because I did misread it. But hopefully the answer was still relatively the same at least. So let's go ahead and do a recap. Okay, so I was talking today about the altcoin supercycle, and again, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, let's get the chat going. I'll keep going as long as the chat is, but it's kind of slower today. So let me do a recap of the altcoin supercycle, my thoughts on the altcoin supercycle. So most people, when you think of the altcoin supercycle, are thinking of traditional, right? What happened in 2017, what happened in 2021. What that altcoin supercycle is a rotation from Bitcoin to Ethereum to the altcoins, and meme coins and things like that. I do believe that cycle is dead. We are going to see a pump and an appreciation this year, in my opinion, not financial advice, in the utility tokens, the things that have value, the things that have institutional backing, ETFs, institutional buyers, things that have real world utility and adoption and partnerships, things like Ondo, things that are, things like HBAR, things like Chainlink, things like Ripple and XRP, so on and so forth. I know there's a lot more projects out there, Solana, whatever have you, Ethereum. I do think that the projects that have institutional backing are going to see their appreciation as utility and use case turns on this year, as we get the innovation exemption this month, as we get clarity this month, as more ETFs come online, as we start getting retirement funds into the ETFs. We're going to see all of these things converge at the same time and ramp up at the same time. So to me, that is going to be the quote unquote super cycle that we're going to be rolling into. It's not going to be all altcoins pump this time. It's not. There are going to be a lot of altcoins that fail. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. Again, not financial advice, but it's not going to be an entire broader market pump like we've seen in previous quote unquote altcoin cycles. I think this is going to be the time where we actually see the appreciation and the quote unquote decoupling of the broader market. We're going to see winners. We're going to see losers. We're going to see things separate clearly throughout the space. So that's my opinion on what the altcoin super cycle is going to look like. It's not going to be the traditional everything pump kind of thing. There will be winners and losers this time around. And then we also talked about the ETFs, right? For those of you who came in late, we had over 6 million pulled off into the ETFs as of yesterday. So as of Friday, our spot ETFs removed another 6 million. Slow Friday because, one day between a holiday and the weekend, nothing's really happening. And then we also covered again and touched base on the XRP rich list, right? Again, only 6 million of these wallets, right? 6 million of the entire 7,500,000 hold 0 to 500 XRP. If you want to be in the top 10%, 2,500 XRP is the number. Top 5% is 10,000 XRP. But again, if you're here starting this process at all, you're already ahead of 99% of the population. Remember, not all of these wallets are people. These larger wallets are institutions, ETFs, money makers, Ripple themselves, exchanges, and they hold multiple wallets. So really, in the grand scheme of things, if you truthfully, if you hold 1,000 XRP, you're probably in the top 10% of actual people. My opinion, not financial advice, but you need to really take it with a grain of salt. And if you want to talk about, oh, I'm not even showing you guys. I'm sitting here looking at the screen like I'm like you guys can see it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little out of it today. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and it's been kind of a busy couple of weeks for me here. So, but I feel like I'm off today, and I think that's being reflected in the stream here. You guys aren't super chatty today, or it could also be a Saturday and numbers going sideways. But talking about the XRP rich list here, um, if you're holding over 1,000, truthfully, you're probably in the top 10%. Because again, of these 7,500,000 wallets, 6 million of them are less than 500 XRP, and probably the vast majority of anything up here is going to be money makers, institutions, ripples, exchange, different exchanges, different exchange wallets. And you can go through here and you can look on XRP scan and actually pull up the wallets and who holds what. Some of them are labeled, some of them are not. But again, if you are an XRP holder, you should have XRP scan. Okay. Um, Price is going sideways today. We are holding the $2 level right now. This is good. This is bullish. Again, the level we were concerned with was the 195 level. That's what we called out. Looks like we are holding that. So if we come down and test 195 and bounce off of it, I'm expecting us to make a run at 220. Again, if we fail 195, if we give up 195, then we can go and fall all the way back down to $1.77, $1.75 and try and test it again. My opinion, not financial advice. But in the meantime, I'm going to hop into the chat and talk to you guys. I'm not even sure how many people are in the stream, but it's nice to be back over $2. And it's nice to be sitting here hanging out with you guys on a Saturday. Let me see what everyone else has to say. Yeshua asked, what is Jake's latest theory? The last I heard is his theory is unchanged. He's just pushing the timeline back. He said the catalysts haven't hit and he's pushing the timeline back. He still believes, last I heard is it'll be $10,000 by the end of 2026. So he's doubling back down on his $10,000 XRP and starting over with 2026. So I haven't looked at the theories. I probably should understand it because I get so many questions about it. A lot of people come to me from those videos. So I probably should understand it, but I hate to become the anti-Jake explainer guy. I want to create our own thoughts and research and create a different way of looking at it versus just listening to someone say, I know people. I know something's coming. I've had private talks. I have NDAs. Okay. That doesn't tell me anything. Let me look at ETF math. Let me look at real supply. Let me look at what's held on exchanges, what's held in wallets. Let's look at it, real adoption and what it's actually doing to the asset versus backdoor discussions that we can't prove. Again, my opinion, not financial advice. Harik says, have pension funds been buying crypto ETFs? Heard if pension funds buy XRP can become $80 plus. Not yet. The pension funds and retirement funds and all that stuff are not into the ETFs yet. What was it? Yeah. Congress sent a letter to the SEC right before Christmas, I think, telling the SEC to go ahead and push that out there to get those rules done based on the presidential order. So again, I think we're going to see that money start coming in Q1 too. It's not officially coming in yet, but Congress is behind it. The president's behind it. Banks are getting approvals to buy, sell crypto and do all kinds of things. Like the entire landscape around crypto is completely changing for 26. The tailwinds are more bullish than I don't think people realize. I don't think people truly realize how bullish the tailwinds are for adoption of crypto in our country right now, because we haven't seen it in price because we've had a bear market, well, not necessarily a bear market, but a bear crypto market, right? A pullback in the crypto market for the last 6 months when everyone thought we were going to the moon, right? Because the economy has been shaky macroeconomically for a lot of different reasons. But it's still moving institutionally as a speculative asset. All of them are moving institutionally as speculative assets because we don't have clarity yet, because we don't have real use happening on these blockchains yet. In the grand scheme of things, remember, if we're looking at, if we take crypto, for those of you who are around my age, around 40 years old, if we take crypto and we take it back to our youth and look at the internet, when the internet first came on, I make this comparison a lot because it's really the closest thing we have, truthfully, because crypto blockchain is basically Web3. It's the new internet. It's the new way of doing things online, essentially. So if we look at the internet, when the internet first came on and started being used, it was AOL, it was chat rooms, it was you got mail, it was all these things. We're not even there yet. Right? Retail doesn't have regular use of blockchain yet, right? It's not becoming, incorporated into their everyday lives yet. Like, that was what AOL was. So can you imagine trying to predict what was going to happen with internet companies in 1994, 1995, when we first started getting AOL, when retail first started getting a taste of what the internet can be? Like, truthfully, that was most people's first exposure to the internet. And look what developed over 30 years of the internet. Okay. And I do think we're going to see a compressed, like a fast forwarded version, an accelerated version of that with blockchain versus what we saw with the internet and the dot-com bubble and the adoption over the last 30 years of what the internet first coming on to what the internet is now, right? The internet's basically obsolete now. So I think we're going to see a faster version of that, maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years, right? So that's why I always say we're here for the long view. We're here for what's going to happen a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, not what the price is doing today, because this is the infancy stage of what's happening. So that was a long-winded answer to your question, Harik, but hopefully that answers. Second question you had for me was any impact of tax season on altcoin season. I mean, when people get their tax returns, that's liquidity coming into the market. So when people start getting, the beginning of the year is typically pretty well, unless there's no macroeconomic thing going on. People are getting tax returns. People are getting more money. No one, people aren't spending as much on Christmas gifts and things like that. Typically in a well-performing economy, Q4, results are coming in January. And if we're in a good economy, a lot of these places are getting great numbers. You're right. So until we start getting numbers and see what kind of Q4 numbers a lot of companies got and see what's actually happening in the economy, who's making money, who's not making money, there should be a little bit of a sense of euphoria, probably till mid-February, late February, and we start seeing how these companies are coming in for Q4 and how the overall economy stands with rate cuts and things like that. January is going to set the stage for what is going to happen in 2026. I firmly believe that. I think we'll have a really good prediction of what's going to happen throughout 2026 once we get through January. My opinion, not financial advice. Yeshua says, I watch other channels. Most are big on quant. What's your opinion on quant? I agree that quant has a lot of potential. I am invested in quant. I do hold some of it. It's not one of my big three. I would say it fits in the top 5. I think we're going to see a lot of appreciation in quant, maybe in the back half of this year as it gets more partnerships and more institutional adoption, but it does have real use case and it is progressing. So I do believe it's worth a dart throw. Absolutely. Do your own research. But in my opinion, yes, because of its adoption and use case, I think it is worth holding. And that's just me. It's coming 589 says David Schwartz said XRP needs to be 10,000 for it to be used at max capability. But realistically, when could XRP reach that? I'm assuming 5 to 10 years at best. And that's only when XRP is fully utilized. Q2. I believe, I've said multiple times, I don't know what the value can be because it doesn't have clarity yet. We don't have an established role for XRP. But I'm not going to dismiss the $10,000 XRP or the $1,000 XRP because I understand why that number is there. It depends on how much value is on the ledger. It's almost impossible to determine the value of these things because they're technologies. They're not stocks. They're not even really currencies. This is a blockchain technology. It's going to adapt. It's going to change. Think about it. XRP started as cross-border payments, okay? It started as cross-border payments. What do we have now? Now we have staking. Now we have DeFi. Now we have lending. Now we have all of these things happening. We have interoperability, right? You can wrap it and go to Solana. You can wrap it and go to Ethereum soon. You can wrap and do Flare. So XRP is getting multiple use cases right now. Think about it this way. When Amazon first came online, anyone around? Sorry for the mic. Anyone around in 2001, 2002 when Amazon first came on? It was online books. That was all they did. Look at it now. What has Amazon progressed into? Anyone remember Apple when they first came around, right? They just did computers, right? The phones are what blew Apple up, iPhone, okay? Everything adjusts and changes as it goes through this process. So what the landscape looks like today is not what the landscape's going to look like in 10 years. And anyone who tells you they know is lying to you. Because think about it, you're 40, 50 years old. Most of you, I'm assuming, according to my metrics, most of the people who watch me are 35 to 55. Okay. So most of you are my age. You grew up when I grew up. Okay. Think about it. Use your brain. Think about what you know. What did the internet, what did the scale of the internet companies look like? Were you paying attention when you were, 10, 15 years old, 20 years old? Were you paying attention to the internet? Look at how things have evolved and changed, okay? No one could have predicted that, right? But that's why we throw darts. That's why we do research. That's why we diversify, okay? I believe in XRP. I believe in HBAR. I believe in Chainlink. I do believe in Quant, Ondo, and several others, Avalanche, anything involved tokenization, because we know tokenization is going to happen. Who was talking about here? Here's a great way to look at it. Who was talking about tokenizing real world assets a few years ago? When did you hear about that? Right? Was it in 2021? No, they weren't. Tokenizing real world assets wasn't even really a thing. People were talking about NFTs and hype trading NFT basketball cards or whatever the case may be, or weird monkeys, whatever NFT project it was. Okay, so when we're talking about what things are going to look like moving forward, the entire scheme is changing. Do your research, know what you hold. But if 30 years ago, we're talking about what the internet was going to be, no one had a clue. 5 years ago, when we're talking about crypto and tokenizing of real world assets, no one had a clue. We were talking about tokenizing real estate, stocks, bonds, and all of these things. People were tripping out over gorillas. Okay. let's be honest and call it for what it is. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm going off on one today. Oh, I didn't even answer your question. So does it need to be a higher price? It is optimized to run at a higher price. What's going to cause it to appreciate to a price of 1,000 or 10,000? The role and the value held on the ledger. Okay. So I'm not going to dismiss it as a possibility or even try to claim to know when it's going to be at its full, utility use case price, if you will. But we are investing based on return on investment, and that's the risks I'm willing to take. And the other projects I'm invested in is the risks I'm willing to take. I am here for appreciation over time, for the long view, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. There's no magic pill that's going to make me a millionaire tomorrow. It takes time. My opinion, not financial advice. If it takes that long, could another company jump ahead of XRP? No, I don't think so. Because here's why. Think of how much they've had to do to get ingrained in this space. Okay. Think about what they've had to do. G Treasury, like billions of dollars of acquisitions, right? G Treasury, Ripple Prime, Rail, Palisade. They're getting their bank charter. They already have the blockchain. They have multiple people they've been involved in multiple meetings at the White House, the UK. Ripple has been sitting in the meetings with the people writing the legislation. Okay. This is where, now, does that mean we have proof of anything? Does that mean it's guaranteed XRP will go up? No, it doesn't. But do I think someone's going to come in and jump that kind of connection? This is where we get to the point where we start have to be using our old brains a little bit and our TradFi brains a little bit. Follow the money, right? Follow the money. What is the money doing? What rooms are people sitting in? It's not about what you know, it's about who you know in this world, right? Just because, so okay, Solana, to me, Solana is superior to Ethereum as far as use case and what it can do. Ethereum's gonna beat Solana because of the money that's involved in it. My opinion, not financial advice. So it's not always about what's going to be best. It's really, it's about use case, it's about adoption, and really what is going to get the push. What rooms are people sitting in? This is important, and this is why we keep an eye on it. But that's speculation. So we have to use our brain, do our research, and come up with our own thoughts and thesis. I'm just telling you what I think. Okay. So hopefully that answers your all's question. Far Maximus said, just realized you were on. Good morning from the Lou. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon here. It's 12:38. Raul Escavez said there's 19 people in the stream. Hey, Raul, Zeta's in the house. What's going on, Zeta? You guys started blowing up the chat as I went on my little rant there. Harik in the house said, can you please explain reverse carry trade and oil price connection with XRP? So the reverse carry trade and oil price. So reverse carry trade is done by the strengthening of the yen to the US dollar. Basically, liquidity crisis for Japan equals carry trade. They're trying to get their money from the people that have borrowed money from them. And shilling their economy makes them change interest rates, makes them give away less free money. I'm trying to give it just real easy explanation, right? Because the whole thing was the carry trade was them lending out cheap money to everyone, people taking that money, deploying it into other markets. So people have been taking cheap interest rate yen for 30 years, essentially. The world economy runs on yen, runs on cheap yen. So people were taking those loans, they were investing it, making returns, and then paying it back. Well, now Japan's hiking their rates. So now they're up to a 0.75%. They're expected to reach 1.5% by the end of this year, 2026. So the reverse carry trade is as the yen strengthens, people are stop taking the free yen and they start paying back the free yen, which means they have to start selling the positions they deployed that money in. And usually that's risk on assets, things like crypto, things like tech stocks, AI. Okay. So a oil crisis with Venezuela could hurt Japanese economy, cause them to hike rates more aggressively, accelerate the reverse carry trade. So basically, the whole thing with oil originally, if you want, this is coming from Jake's theory. If you were following Jake for a while, his original thought on what was going to create the catastrophe of the reverse carry trade with Japan and force everything to go to the XRP ledger, right? That's the theory. Originally, it was that Tether was going to go under and cause Bitcoin to crash. And that was going to cause a liquidity crisis, right? And then it became reverse carry trade and oil, right? So it changed, the catalyst changed after Tether was no longer a thing. So again, do your research, okay? Try to connect the dots as best you can. Hopefully that answers that question for you. Hopefully that answers the reverse carry trade. Now, the connection to XRP with the reverse carry trade is XRP is a liquidity bridge. If people need to change dollars to yen, what is the best suited thing to do that quickly and efficiently without bogging down the system, right, of cross-border payments? XRP. So that's where that whole theory came from for you. Far Maximus says, we are rooting for Jake to be right, but let's keep level head and look for a $10 XRP. That's right. That's the best way I have found to address it, Far Maximus is. I don't believe it's going to happen. This is what I believe is going to happen realistically based on my research. I would love for him to be right, and I will happily sit here eating my humble pie on my stack of XRP all the way to the bank saying, yep, he was right. I was wrong. Okay. All right. I'm going to go retire on the beach now. But I would rather plan on a more realistic, factual based, thing that I've done the research into personally. And again, do your own research. But that's the way I approach those predictions. Zeta says the process of altcoins utility, it's on its infancy. Absolutely, is literally in its infancy. I'm assuming you said that when I was talking about what was happening with the internet 30 years ago, etc. So 1,000,000% Zeta, we are just now coming online with crypto in the grand scheme of things. Harik asks, any insight into Canton you are able to talk about? Well, I know I briefly looked into it, and by briefly, I saw that the DTCC was tokenizing on the Canton network. I'm like, what the heck is that? Let me look into it. And I saw it's backed by a lot of people with a lot of money, including BlackRock and others. So I think that they're trying to keep the money in-house, if you will, because it's funny, BlackRock owns like a third of everything, and now they're literally helping build the infrastructure layer they're using to tokenize with the DTCC. So it's something I'm researching in further. I think I'm definitely probably going to have to get into some of it. That might be my fifth pillar. I might have to add a fifth pillar. It's something I've been researching. Don't quote me on it yet. I don't have all the info on Canton yet, but from what I've seen, my advice has always been follow the money. It shows you where to go, and the money's showing us where to go on that one. So I need to do some more research on it, but it's definitely on my radar, Harik. Canton is definitely on my radar. Far Maximus says, do you think that Trump has done this morning in Venezuela may cause the turmoil in the oil market as one of the chips on the board? Jake says needs to happen for the reverse carry trade to occur. I don't know, but let me put it to you this way. I'm going to ask you to think about it a different way, Far Maximus. What would the world look like if that kind of catastrophe happened? Okay, what would the world look like if that kind of catastrophe happened? There would be a ton of people in an immense amount of pain for the kind of reverse carry trade that he's talking about. They're going to do everything they can to avoid that. So I would say no. I don't think what Trump did is going to kick it off. I would say realistically, if you want to play the odds are more likely there's going to be a soft landing with this oil crisis. It's going to be a soft landing with the reverse carry trade without imploding markets, because there's so many people and governments and like big players involved in that to happen. That's so much coordination for a chaotic event. No, I don't. My opinion, not financial advice, but I have to say no. Harik said he appreciated all the info. You're very, very welcome. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be here. Far Maximus says, nope, senior Gen Xer. Okay, all right, no, not a young one. Turple Nurple's in the house. Harik says, how is the price calculated? Is just order book format? I don't know what you're talking about, Harik. What price are you referring to? The one said, look up Kita Network. I'll keep that in mind. Oh, Wormhole is definitely going to be a big part of it. Interoperability, cross-chain, absolutely. Being able to work together with other Solana, Ethereum, XRP. Bitcoin is the only one that has like almost no interoperability. I don't think they really care. They don't need to. People are still buying it. But yeah, interoperability, use case, utility, 100%, Martin. That is going to be a massive factor moving forward for everything. Crypto Roger said, I think some of us old timers could use a super cycle about now. Yeah, I think us old timers, if we got another super cycle, we are pretty much out the door at that point. That means we'd made it. Another super cycle would be great though. 1,000,000%. Uh, hey Maduro, your people are now free. Oh my goodness, I won't get political here. Jose said, do you think Canton will create a problem for XLM and H bar in retail? It could. It 100% could, but that's why you have to look at what the adoption is. That's why you diversify. That's why you hedge. That's why you look at different partnerships. Um, so yeah, it absolutely could create a problem. Like one of the things a lot of people have been bringing up to me is Stronghold. What do I think about Stronghold? Because it's in the same payment vein as you know, because it's also involved in payments like XRP. And I don't think, I mean, really, it targets in a completely separate format. I don't think it has any threat at all to XRP, but I had to do the research and look into it. So like SHX, I personally am not holding it. I don't think it has a lot of staying power compared to XLM, XRP, just because of the adoption and use case they have. But when you get that's the risk you're taking with the smaller market cap coins. It's you have to do your research. Those are dart throws. You know what I'm saying? Um, King said, hello, hello, Kingdom, or Kingdom Come VIP for that matter. Far Maximus said, good insight as always. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Again, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm here Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturdays at noon. I appreciate you all taking time out of your day and working with me. How is XRP's price calculated exactly? Okay, I got you. So this is a good question. I mean, it's calculated based on order books and liquidity, just like any other crypto. But how is it? How? Let me ask you this very question. Let's talk about mindset. Okay. So when we're talking about what price, you know, what determines the price of XRP, I want to challenge you to this. What determines the price of anything? Think about it. What determines the price of anything? One thing. What someone else is willing to pay for it. Period. So supply and demand. That is what the determination of price. If people decided that gold was worthless tomorrow and no one wanted to buy it anymore, the price of gold will plummet. Same thing with silver, same thing with platinum, same thing with diamonds, anything that you want. The only thing that gives that dollar bill value is that someone thinks it has value, that a store will take it. The funny thing about a dollar bill is if you look at the back of it, it literally says Federal Reserve Note. I mean, that piece of paper is just debt backed by our US government. So who determines that value, right? So yes, I mean, short answer, yes, Harik. It's just order books and stuff like that. Uh, it's based on supply and demand, what someone's willing to pay for it at that time. If there's more orders to sell than there are to buy, price is going to go down. Supply and demand. Zeta said the low cost fee of XRP and demand increasing will require those banks and institutions using it to accumulate more. There are 100 billion XRP total. It doesn't make sense if the price of XRP stays low. Yes, 1,000,000%. And that is the theory that we all pretty much believe in as XRP holders, that as it starts getting used, even if they use it at smaller amounts, $2, $3, $4, whatever the case may be, that just means more transactions and the burn rate will be faster, right? Because there's transactions every burn rate. So if it's hard to send $1 trillion with, you know, it's hard to send $1 trillion with a billion XRP when it's only valued at $2. You can only move it 2 billion at a time. So supply and demand, use case, value coming on ledger, all of these things are going to impact price, but we should get a clear outline of what that's going to look like with clarity once the potential DAT reclassifications are happening. Once we understand what this outlined scope is actually going to look like in the real world. Again, my opinion, not financial advice. Abdul said, what is the symbol for Canton? Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up for you real quick. I want to say it was just like a C, but I don't want to tell you incorrectly. Come on now, where is it at? emblem. Sorry, I got my stroke brain has a thing. It goes out on me sometimes. Yeah, so it's like 2 C's. Here we go. Let me pull it up for you. That's what the Canton one looks like. Again, don't purchase anything based on me. Okay, none of this is financial advice. This is just my opinion, information. But if you're interested in Canton, let's do some research together on Canton since we're talking about it so much. Okay, let me just see here. Canton crypto summary. Let's get out of that. AI mode. What does AI have to say? The Canton Network is public permissions layer 1 blockchain developed specifically for regulated financial institutions to securely transact and tokenize real-world assets with configurability, price, interoperability, native utility token, Canton Coin, CC, is used for network fees and incentives. So that's exactly what it does. Key insights: institutional focus, privacy and interoperability, tokenomics, burn and mint model where all transaction fees are burned, use cases, recent news. The news of NASDAQ joining in a Bitwise ETF application for CC has driven significant price momentum, with the token seeing a 47% increase over the past 7 days. So let's see here. So Canton Network, let's see. Who is Canton Network and BlackRock and partners? Let's do partners and investors. Let's take a look. Has a large system with over 600 partners, participants, and investors represent major players of traditional and decentralized finance, banks, and financial services. Goldman Sachs, BNB, BNY Mellon, JP Morgan, Societe Generale, Standard Chartered are among banking partners. Market infrastructure, DTCC, Do Choice Sports Group, CBOE Global Markets. Technology and service providers, Microsoft, Deloitte, IntellectU, crypto market makers, Cumberland. So let's see. Goldman Sachs, BNB, DRW Venture Capital, TradeWeb, Polygon, Circle, Blackstone. There's Blackstone. So there you go. There's BlackRock. It's Blackstone. Just so you know, Blackstone is owned by BlackRock. S&P Global, JP Morgan, IBM. So yeah, I would say Canton Network has some strong partnerships behind it, guys. Again, not financial advice, but it's something I've looked into and added to recently. Do your own research, but it certainly seems like it's going to have there's a lot of money behind it. When we talk about follow the money, those are the big names: JP Morgan, Blackstone. I mean, come on. Jose, do you think once UBI will be a thing to come once AI takes over job-wise? Where will crypto sit in that scenario? Man, okay, Jose, you're getting real speculative. You're getting to like Ready Player One kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know, UBI is universal base income, right? So basically the thought is AI, robots, all those things are going to take over. We're not going to have use or function anymore. We're not going to need to work anymore. So what is the government going to do with all these people? They have to have a way to live, right? So that's where we get into, people worried about private, online digital IDs, UBI, which is universal base income. Basically, like, you get to that point, you have a meat allowance, you have an internet allowance, you have a carbon footprint allowance. You would be literally controlled by the government, and they basically just give you what you need to live, because we don't need to work anymore. And that's kind of the theory that, everyone will get to the point where they own nothing and they're happy about it. It's already happening. We used to buy movies, right? You used to have to buy a movie. You used to go buy a book. Now you can't even hardly buy a movie anymore. You just get the streaming service, but you don't own anything. If you stop paying for the streaming service, you can't watch movies. That's just, people aren't buying houses anymore. They're priced out of buying houses and they're forced to rent, and rent's astronomical, but then they can't get enough credit to, that's the thing. It's starting to transition to where they're making it to where, people are going to own nothing and be happy about it. And as far as your UBI rule, that falls right into it. Now, that's why I'm trying to create some financial independence, because truthfully, money is a tool to freedom. Truthfully, otherwise you're in debt-based slavery, in my opinion. So money is the tool to freedom. That's why they call it financial freedom. When you don't have to worry about getting up and going to work for someone else, when you don't have to worry about how, paying your mortgage because you own, it's your house. It's not a mortgage from a bank that the bank owns the house. Is all those things. Having enough money to where you can decide, I'm going to use some language. I heard a clip one time. It's $2.5 million is what every man or woman, independent person, $2.5 million is what you need. That lets you live in the place of FU. Okay, so what is $2.5 million? It gets you a nice little house, gets you a nice little car, everything's paid off. You can invest it and make 4 to 8% baseline, cover your taxes and your necessities, right? So now if your boss tells you to do something you don't want to do, F you. Your wife tells you something you don't want to do, F you, right? You don't have to do anything anyone wants to do, anyone wants you to do anymore in order to survive in the capitalistic environment that we live in. Roughly $2.5 million gets you there. So that is freedom. That is financial freedom. That is escaping the debt-based slavery where you no longer have to work and decide what you want to do and how you want to build it. That should be everyone's goal when they turn 18, is achieving that $2.5 million base and getting to that level of strength in your life. Most people can reach it by 30, 35 if they start right away. True story. It takes sacrifice. It takes discipline. That just gets me started on something completely different. And the chat's died down. I appreciate all of you. I've kind of gone off on a rant. But I'll keep going on here. Oh no, wait, the chat hasn't died down. They're still here. XRP is cross-border payments. Absolutely. XRP is cross-border payments. Abdul Roof, how to find the exchange to trade for Canton? I don't have that answer, and I'm not going to look it up on stream right now. I'll look into it though. I think I know a place that can help us with that. Hariksa, any thoughts on Evernorth driving up the price? I don't think they're going to drive up the price. I would love for them to do it. I think the important key for Evernorth is, to me right now, the biggest key for Evernorth this year is going to be the backstop for if Ripple has to offload some XRP, right? Be it whether it's from the Clarity Act or whether it's from, the potential DAT reclassification on January 15th. I think Evernorth will have can someone let me know how many people are in the stream too? I think Evernorth would have a bigger factor in that, right? Giving Ripple a place to put their XRP so they don't have to reclassify their company because they are a banking institution, or they're trying to be. They don't want to have to deem themselves security and it throws off escrow. They can just, here you go, Evernorth, here's some more XRP. Again, my opinion, not financial advice, but that makes way too much sense. And hopefully too, if you guys could let me know in the chat, most of you are my regulars here. I tried something different. I actually moved the chat bar over here under my camera, so I'm looking at you guys when I'm talking to you. My other screen is over here. I was looking over here all the time while I was talking. So I moved the chat bar over here, so it's on my main screen where I'm looking at data, so I can look directly at you guys too. I don't know if it matters to you or not, but let's take a look here. Let's hop through some information. There's 24 people in here. I'll probably wind it down here. But a lot of people are asking about Canton Network. So if we're gonna talk about it, we need to do some real research. Okay. So let's look at the Canton Network and let's look at what's really happening. So Canton Network. Let's see. Breakdown and where to invest. Now, this is just Chat GPT. We'll see what it comes up with here. But a lot of people are asking about Canton. And again, not financial advice. Do your own research. But let's see what GPT has to say about it here. Canton Network is a public blockchain specifically designed to bridge traditional finance with blockchain technology. With institutional grade privacy, compliance, interoperability, it's built for regulated institutions. So it is being built directly to bring traditional finance onto blockchain. Institutional focus supported and used by major banks, exchanges, and financial infrastructure firms. Goldman Sachs, BNB, Deutsche Börse, Microsoft, HSBC, Broadridge, Circle. So big adoption already happening. Privacy by design. Transactions are only visible to the parties involved, crucial for regulated finance. So this is what they're using to start tokenizing the stock market. The DTCC announced that. So that's why we're talking about this. Interoperability and atomic settlement enables synchronized real-time settlement between systems that normally don't talk to each other. Real-world assets, RWAs, tens of trillions of tokenized bonds, treasuries, repos, and other instruments are being moved or tested on the network. Governance, a foundation, global synchronizer, Canton Foundation governs core infrastructure with input from institutional participants. This is another general layer one like Ethereum or Solana. Or excuse me, this isn't another general layer one like Ethereum or Solana. It's a financial infrastructure layer meant to coexist with regulated markets, and is being built and accepted directly with the DTCC. We went over its partners, JP Morgan, Blackstone, which is BlackRock. Who else? I mean, there was a bunch of them, tons of partners. So architecture, tokenization, real world usage examples. So where can you actually buy it? It says this is primary retail exposure. If you want exposures on exchanges, it's listed on exchanges like Jew.com. Other is KuCoin or MEXXC have also listed or supported it. Be wary of scam pre-sale sites. Risks to consider when buying. Token price can be volatile. 21 shares ETP for European investors or TradFi exposure. There's an exchange traded fund, ETP, that tracks the token issued by 21 shares. So for those of you in Europe, you can get it. Staking and running nodes. If you're more institutional technical, you can actually run a validator node for it and earn rewards. All right. So yeah, it looks like I think CC will be another one to pair with our XRP. Again, not financial advice, but I like where it's heading as far as its institutional backing. That's for sure. Let's see here. Three Brothers said live stream on a Saturday. Yeah, I've been starting to do it. I like live streaming better, to be honest with you, Three Brothers. I like streaming better than making videos. I'd rather actually come on here and talk to you guys and be me than spend hours chopping and editing up a video as far as the long ones go. You know what I'm saying? But that, look up Kita. Let's see. I knew what Canton was. I'm leery of looking it up on screen because I'm not saying this is what you are, but I do get scam bots in here and stuff like that to say, look up this or look up that. You know what I'm saying? So let me pre-check this one first here. Let's see. That one has $107 million market cap, so small market cap token. The token has been very volatile with an all-time high of $1.69 in June of this year. Looks like it's on the rise right now. It's another layer one cryptocurrency built to connect traditional financial systems. Scalability, the network designed to handle millions of transactions per second. Compliance, tokenization platform natively supports tokenization, real world assets. High profile backing. Kita is backed by Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, which has lent the project significant credibility. So it doesn't look like it has any institutional backing other than the former CEO of Google. It doesn't really have any adoption or partnerships like that. It looks like it's focusing on a lot of the same things XRP does. Payments, it doesn't say cross-border here, but it's a layer one, payments, AML, anti-money laundering. So it's got the privacy and security. I mean, it looks like it could be, but there's just not a lot really going into it. Demonstrating 11 million transactions per second. And again, who are they plugged in with? Unfortunately, because of where we're at in the game right now, it's going to be, I think a lot of these new layer ones aren't really going to get the same opportunity per se that like XRP got, or those, just because they've been around so long and they've survived so long and they actually have partnerships and adoption right now. So I want to see if they. I would rather be a little bit late than early and lose my money on the newer coins right now. At least in this market right now, I'd rather be a little bit late and make money over the long term than throw too many darts and lose money. Again, my opinion, not financial advice. Everyone has their own way. I was early on XRP. So, I was early on Solana. I was way early on Solana. I'm out of Solana now, but I was in there at $7 with Solana. So before it got to 250 back in 2020. So AM09B said, is a cross-border transaction between two banks. XRP coins come from exchanges, not from banks, central banks, or liquidity providers. Isn't that what we call on-demand liquidity? Well, in cross-border transactions, so a lot of these on-demand liquidity is held by Ripple. So they have over 5.1 billion XRP that they hold for on-demand liquidity that they put into different corridors, right? So just because, how do I put it? So like there's an African corridor, there's an Asian corridor, there's a European corridor. This XRP stays in those corridors, right? So when you're talking about XRP being tapped for on-demand liquidity, say someone wants to send US dollars to Japan, because everyone wants to talk about the reverse carry trade. So we're talking about US dollar to Japan to the yen. That's a corridor, right? So there's a liquidity pool of XRP that sits in that corridor of, let's just say, 1 billion XRP, right? And we need to move $10 trillion to Japan, right? And you have to go through the FX markets, get that switched out. Right now, it goes through Nostro Vostro accounts, right? Which Nostro Vostro accounts mean, you have to have, if we're doing $1 trillion, let's say $1 trillion for easy math. If you're doing $1 trillion and you need to transfer it to yen, then both sides need to hold $1 trillion, right, of the respectable currency for that transaction to go through. So when you switch cross-border payments and you tap the XRP liquidity pool, you switch, what they're saying is you take that dollar, you switch it to XRP, send off the payment, switch it over to yen, boom, 4 seconds, less fees, less hold up. You don't have to keep the Nostro Vostro accounts like you do in typical traditional finance right now. That's why we're talking about saving so much money in fees on cross-border payments and so much time and unlocking all of that liquidity that has to sit stagnant just to do those financial exchanges when you get into exchanging for different currencies cross-border. That's what they're trying to unlock. It's a very outdated system. It's not like being in one country and sending money from one side of the country to another. It doesn't change currencies. You don't have to worry about, security, privacy as much. I mean, you do, but you don't have to worry about verifying if that currency is good, what the actual value of the currency is compared to what it was this morning, right? All those things. All that stuff plays into effect in FX exchanges. So hopefully that answers your question. We are here for the long term, the long-term view. That is the goal. Any good news today? The good news is we're up over $2 and we're holding it, three brothers. Other than that, there was really no news today. We talked a lot about Canton, which you probably caught the end of. And we covered the ETFs. There was about 8 million, or not 8 million, 6 or 7 million XRP that went into the ETF still, even on a short day. Again, everyone can follow me on Longview Crypto if you want to follow me on X. That's where I retweet a lot of stuff that I find. But before, I don't know why I'm stuttered. I can't talk. But that's where I'll retweet a lot of stuff before it actually goes into the stream. So again, we talked a lot about other cryptos and investing today because we were talking about utility coins and what the actual super cycle is going to look like. And it's not going to look like what people are thinking of traditionally in a super cycle. Okay. So again, we're here for the long term. We're here for the long view. Do your own research. Don't buy something just because we discussed it today. Do your own research. Look into it. And I will see you guys Monday at noon. Otherwise, I'll see you in some shorts over the next couple days while we're waiting on some news. All right. Later.